talk about the wave shaper oscillator on the Arturia MiniFreak. Next, we're going to talk about the Formant oscillator on the Arturia MiniFreak. Now, formants are really interesting because what formants are is they are resonant peaks in the human voice. There are these two weird resonant peaks that exist in our vocal production, and they are the filtering outcome that gives us vowels. Where these resonant peaks exist and the way we use the resonant space ends up in these peaks providing us with vowels. Basically different timbres of tone, because that's really what our vowels are. E, oo, o. Those are different timbres. And the adjustment of these two resonant filter peaks in our bodies allow us to form these vowels. So this was really interesting because early on, vocal synthesis, the synthesis of the human voice, was one of the first synthesis pursuits in history. Helmholtz pursued it and actually made a device that produced human vowels. Anyway, the point of the matter is, formants were our sense of how sound should be filtered. And that's why in the 1938-39 Hammond Nova chord, the filters on that basic polysynth weren't just like low pass or high pass. They were formant filters. They were filters that generated those two peaks so you could have really vocal sounds come out of the instrument, because that's where we thought electronic music should go in the early part of the 20th century. The theremin and the Nova chord had very vocal qualities to them. Anyway, so to have a formant-based oscillator in the Arturia MiniFreak means that we have the ability to, through synthesis, formulate really vocal tones using this formant oscillator, which has those two resonant peaks in them, and you can adjust them, which is what we're about to do. Incidentally, I'll tell you right now, if you ever want to emulate a Hammond Nova chord, something like this is the way to do it. We're going to go through sounds here in a minute that sound, in my mind, as a former Hammond Nova chord owner, like the Nova chord like crazy. So anyway, we've chosen the Formant oscillator. Our first knob, wave, sets the ratio or distance between the formant frequencies. Let's hear what happens with that. Kind of got into who territory there. But at this point, you can just hear timbral differences, and there's a little bit of vocality in there. You can. Our second knob, the timbre knob, is actually the formant, where we set the bass formant frequency. You might be tempted, like I am currently tempted, to try and find the vocal sounds. But as I'm going towards the vocal sounds, I'm passing a lot of really great timbres. That sounds vocal. Kind of chipmunky vocal. And so, like, that one sounds like some nasal noise that some man is making. And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get these weird little phonemes from human speech as you mess with these formants. The last knob, shape, sets the formant width and shape. difficult at times. But the cool thing about it is that unlike speeding a frequency up and down like a sample of a human voice, you will not get the chipmunk effect with this because the formants are fixed. They are fixed in a position. Speeding a sound up causes the formants to shift, which is why we get the chipmunk sound. Now we can artificially generate that with this, but in general, once you find something that sounds in a typical human voice range, you can play any note and it will still sound like a human voice and not do the chipmunk thing. You could, we're verging on the choir sound from Blue Monday with that one. Anyway, it is a really cool way to get synth sounds that, you know, we all really love the big fat mogy sort of, you know, synth sounds, but like there's a lot of room for more nasal vocal range sounds in any song. So if you've got a big, huge fat bass and some, you know, big synthy stabs, you might want to use something that has more of a mid-range timbre, like something like this, to fill in the space to put different content in. And this really does sound like a Hammond Nova chord. Wow. Weird. Anyway, there are a lot of weird, interesting vocal sounds that can be found on the Arturia MiniFreak's Formant oscillator type.